Welcome back everyone to Tbilisi, Georgia. This, of course, is voiceover Gary, editing Gary, who just discovered as he was editing this video that the first three files are super slow motion like this with no sound. So honestly, I don't even remember what I was talking about in these videos, but today we are going to head out of town, out of Tbilisi, a train ride about an hour away to the city of Gori, where a very influential yet also very controversial historical figure was born. So come along.
Thanks for clicking on the video. If you want to help out the channel and help it grow, I really would appreciate it. Click on the like button down there, the subscribe button, and the little bell next to it to be notified for when new videos drop. It really helps the channel grow because it's going to help the YouTube algorithm recognize this content and spread it to other YouTube viewers. If you'd like to support the channel monetarily, I would appreciate that as well. You can leave a super thanks by clicking this thanks button here and give a small donation to the channel. I appreciate your support. So back to the video, enjoy.
So heading out to Gori, we start here in front of Tbilisi's Liberty Square metro station that we saw in our last video, very briefly. And we're going to be taking the metro up to Station Square, which is where the main train station for Tbilisi is. Hop on a train and head out to Gori. Now, I mentioned in the intro that Gori is the birthplace of a very influential yet very controversial historical figure. And no more suspense, that historical figure is Joseph Stalin, the infamous dictator of the Soviet Union. It's kind of wild to me, honestly, to be going to visit the birthplace of Joseph Stalin, but there they have preserved his home where he was born. There's a giant museum to Stalin, and as someone who is kind of obsessed with history like I am, it's something that I absolutely cannot pass up. So we head down here on this super slow motion footage, heading down into the Tbilisi Liberty Square metro. What's really cool about the metro here in Tbilisi is it was one of the first metros that was built under the Soviet Union. I think the first two were Moscow and then Kyiv, and then afterwards Tbilisi. And it's interesting because Tbilisi was not a very large city back then, but it's a very important city geographically for trade reasons. So it was a priority that a metro be built here during the Soviet Union. It was started in the 1950s. It was completed in the 1960s. And as you can see, like a lot of other Soviet metros, it is deep, deep underground. This escalator seems like it goes down forever, even when it's going full speed.
Down here in the station Liberty Square. It's a beautiful, very beautiful old modernist station in that sort of modernist Soviet style, built back in the 1950s and 60s. And look at this, our train shows up just as we arrive here. All right, we're gonna take this train up like 2 or 3 stops to where we need to go, to the station. All right, we've emerged from the depths of the Station Square metro stop. Metro station behind us, Station Square, and we're actually going over here to the train station. Now, this is the main central train station for Tbilisi. Georgian Railway runs out of here, and you can catch trains to pretty much all the major cities and smaller cities even across the country from here. Georgia has a very extensive railway system. The rails, as far as I can tell, seems pretty modern and runs on a pretty good schedule and is pretty cheap. We got our ticket today on second class, which is like the third of 3. Business class, first class, or business class, 1 class and 2 class. 2 class is the cheapest. And we got ours today, including the little extra fee it costs to pick what seat we're in for a total of 16 lari, which ends up being $6. Not bad. So our train is actually train number 854, right there. And it continues on past Gori all the way out to Ozurgeti, which is over in like the western part of the country. And we leave on platform 1, which is like right downstairs actually. But before we go, here's a look at the train station, the central station in Tbilisi. Pretty cool design. Very, like, again, modernist Soviet design. Alright, we have arrived here at the train station in Gori. See some people getting on and off the train over there. And from here in the train station, there's a bit of a walk. You can see the beautiful Gori train station here. There's a bit of a walk. So, here in Gori, birthplace of Joseph Stalin. What do we say? What do we say about Joseph Stalin? Let's see. Before we say it, let's figure out where we need to go. If we go this way, and then up here there's a bridge, I think, that goes across the railroad tracks and goes into the center of town. But what do we say? What do we say about Joseph Stalin? Well, he was a dictator. He is possibly the most important historical figure in, like, definitely in the 20th century. I mean, over the course of his iron-fisted rule here in the Soviet Union, he managed to transform the Soviet Union from the start of his rule, 1924, after Lenin's death, to his own death in 1953. He managed to transform the Soviet Union from what was, arguably, in the early 20th century, in the Russian Empire days, a pretty backwards and not really, like, powerful empire when compared to some of the other empires. The Russian Empire had actually, like, incurred some very significant and embarrassing military defeats in the Russo-Japanese War and also in World War I. And there was a lot of internal strife, which of course led to the revolution, the communist revolution in Russia. And from that state, by 1953, the Soviet Union had grown into a major superpower, rivaling the United States, developing a nuclear arsenal. But of course, all of that happened during a process in which millions of people were either killed, died from famine, put into gulags, forcibly relocated to far-flung parts of Russia, in Siberia, he committed a great purge against his own people, political opponents, perceived political opponents, and actual political opponents, rivals. An intentional famine caused in Ukraine, known as the Holodomor, which killed millions of people. And yet, like I mentioned, regardless, Stalin is definitely one of the most, if not the most important and influential historical figures in the 20th century. He led the Soviet Union through World War II, led them to become a superpower. I think there may not be a 30-year period in which a country has developed and industrialized and become and just like grown in economic, military, industrial strength like the 30 years under Stalin's rule in the Soviet Union. His death in 1953 brought on a period under Nikita Khrushchev, his successor, a period of de-Stalinization, in which in the Soviet Union he was denounced by the Communist Party, by the leaders, and he was referred to by Khrushchev as like leading a cult of personality. And this period of de-Stalinization lasted for like a couple of decades, up until Khrushchev was replaced in the 70s by Leonid Brezhnev. And a lot of things that were named after Stalin, like Stalingrad, the city of Stalingrad, was renamed Volgograd. And that's what it is today, Volgograd, named after, of course, the Volga River on which the city sits. There are many shrines, statues, and things like that to Stalin that were taken down during the period of de-Stalinization. Many squares, parks, and things that were named after him were renamed. And that really has continued. There really aren't too many places anymore where Stalin is seen favorably, except possibly right here in Gori. Because Stalin was born here in Georgia, because he is by far the most famous Georgian in all of history, he has a very interesting legacy here in Georgia. Here in Gori, Stalin is still pretty well regarded, honestly. Like I mentioned, we are walking along Stalini Street, and we are walking up towards the central square of Gori, which we will eventually reach, which is named after Joseph Stalin. It's Stalin Square. And right on that square is the museum to Joseph Stalin. Across the street here is the Gori Town Hall, which is a very impressive building, honestly. Very impressive. Out in front, you can see 3 flags. There is, in the middle, the Georgian flag, which is also up there on top of the dome. The Georgian flag, and then the flag on the left, I think is maybe like a provincial or possibly like the city flag of Gori, but you can also see the flag of the European Union on the right. Now, it's very interesting. I've seen in like government buildings and things like this, Georgian flag and also the European Union flag flying, even though Georgia is not a member of the European Union. That's an interesting. There's an interesting point in the Georgian Constitution. There is a provision in the Georgian Constitution that says that Georgia, like the government of Georgia, must always be making effort, like to progress Georgia towards joining the European Union. It's actually in the Constitution. And that is one of the things that the recent protests here in Georgia, especially down in Tbilisi, it's one of the things they've been about. Because the party that has taken control of the Georgian parliament, that controls the government, the Georgia Dream Party, has regressed on some of the efforts to join the European Union. And there are a lot of people in Georgia that are not too happy about that, and they've been protesting. So here we have reached Stalin Park, the central park or square here in Gori. The Georgian flag, huge Georgian flag flying. We're at the southern end, and here at the southern end there is a memorial and a museum to the Great Patriotic War. Great Patriotic War. There's the museum right there. This is how World War II is referred in Russia and former Soviet republics, and how it was referred to in the Soviet Union as the Great Patriotic War. So you see here, 1941 to 1945, the Great Patriotic War. Now, here there is a memorial to, I believe these would be Georgian soldiers, or potentially, I think these are actually going to be the soldiers, Georgian soldiers from Gori who died in the Great Patriotic War. It was interesting. So these war memorials for the Great Patriotic War, you always see the date 1941 to 1945. And of course, if you know your history, World War II began in 1939 when Germany invaded Poland. But 1939, the Soviet Union also invaded Poland, because the Soviet Union at the beginning of the war had a non-aggression pact, a mutual agreement with Germany to invade Poland and split it up between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. So the Great Patriotic War begins in 1941 when the Germans invaded, when they renegotiated forcefully the pact, the non-aggression pact, and invaded the Soviet Union. So from 1941 to 1945, it was a different war for the Soviet Union. It was a war, the Great Patriotic War, to fight against Nazi Germany after the invasion. Anyway, before we head up to see the Stalin Museum and Stalin's house, I want to take a look inside the Great Patriotic War Museum here and see what's inside. All right, we are inside the Great Patriotic War Museum, and I realize I think this is more than the Great Patriotic War Museum. I think this is just a war museum in general, because they have here what looks like soldiers who died in the war against Russia in 2008. Because in 2008, Russia invaded Georgia. It was actually one of the most recent in a series of wars between Georgia and Russia. Here we have 1990 to 1993. Now this may also be people who died in one of the previous wars. Like I mentioned, there have been several wars since the breakup of the Soviet Union. But there is a lot of Great Patriotic War stuff here. Oh, this is written in English here. Soviet soldier poster. We must defend Moscow. Military equipment here. Mortar. Over here, some more. These look like missiles. I don't know about this one. Oh, a shell from a Russian weapon. Yeah, so this is like a Russian missile, I think.
Georgian soldiers killed in Afghanistan and Iraq 2013-2014. So Georgia did have soldiers who fought alongside the coalition in Iraq and Afghanistan. Here we have, I don't know which war all these guys were from. They look, I don't know. Some of these photos are of them when they're older. And some of these photos are much younger guys like this. It's possible that this might be all the soldiers from Gori who fought perhaps in different wars. I don't know. There's more in here. These look more like World War II era, for sure. Great Patriotic War era. Much older photos, you can see. Older photos in here. So old documents and medals. Lots of old medals. There's a room back here too. There's uniforms. Some uniforms here. These look like famous, very famous Soviet like generals. I mean, I know they're generals because they got a lot of medals and they have stars. Stars on the shoulders. Can't really read these names in Georgian or in Russian. Although, actually, you know what? These last three letters is Ili. And that's a Vili. Vili, which is Georgian. That's like, there are a lot of names in Georgian that end in Vili. V-I-L-I, Vili. So maybe these are like Georgian, famous Georgian Soviet generals. Little machine gun. There's the man himself. The man who we came to see. Joseph Stalin. Statue to Joseph Stalin. Some SEALs, military, potentially SEALs here. But I think that's it, actually. This is the end of the museum. There are some interesting, like, photos, lots of old photos, World War II era photos in these different places. Oh, here's a seal with Lenin and Stalin. Lenin on the left, Stalin in front on the right. Here's the famous raising of the Soviet flag over the Reichstag at the end of the Battle of Berlin, the end of the war, or very close to the end of the war. Yeah, I think that's it. That's it for this. I mean, I can look at all these photos. It's like military parade in Moscow celebrating. And all of these old war photos from the war. Here's Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill at the Tehran conference. But, you know, I've seen a lot of photos like this before, and a lot of the stuff here is written in Georgian
and in Russian, and I unfortunately can't really understand it. So I think we will continue on to the other end of Stalin Park. We'll see the Stalin Museum there.